Welcome back. In this lesson, we'll explore how to compare the yield of a tax-free municipal bond to a bond that is federally taxable, such as a corporate bond. As we compare these yields, we'll also be discussing tax-related issues. Please keep in mind that the information in this presentation is provided for informational purposes and should not be relied on for tax, legal, or accounting advice. Before engaging in any transaction, you should consult your own tax, legal, and accounting advisors. Municipal bonds are not generally subject to federal tax, and typically, if an in-state tax-paying resident purchases a muni issued by an entity of that same state, then that resident would also be exempt from state and local taxes on that issuance. However, if a resident of, say, New Hampshire sets out to purchase a Maine GO, then state and local taxes would apply. Meanwhile, corporate bonds are subject to both federal and state taxes. We'll discuss more about municipal bond tax considerations in a later lesson, but for now, if you want to find out the net after-tax yield of a corporate bond to compare to a municipal bond, there's a simple calculation you can use. This involves knowledge of your tax bracket. Let's take the Maine GO we looked at earlier and compare it to a similar maturity Colgate-Palmolive bond. And for simplicity, let's compare both at par. Let's also say, for illustration purposes, that your tax bracket is 22%. To determine the net after-tax return of the corporate bond, first subtract the illustrative tax bracket from 100, giving 78%. Then multiply this by the corporate bond's coupon. We can then say that this Colgate-Palmolive bond is equivalent to a municipal bond yielding a little more than 1.9%. Now let's flip the script and find the taxable equivalent yield of a municipal bond. Let's use, for this example, the 5% Maine GO again, and we'll use a slightly different formula. If a Maine resident in the 22% tax bracket buys the bond at par, there's no state tax applied since it's an in-state purchase. The 5% bond is divided by 78% to give the taxable equivalent yield. Now, if a taxpayer residing in a different state, say New Hampshire, purchased the bond and was, again for illustrative purposes, subject to a 2% state tax, then the federal and state taxes would be combined and subtracted from 100. We would then divide 5% by 76%. If the Colgate-Palmolive bond yielded 6% at par, the Maine GO would offer a higher tax equivalent yield in both the in-state and out-of-state cases. In our next lesson, we'll use the Diver Advisor reports from Lumises to conduct further due diligence on a municipal bond. Come back and join us.